You know, when I first saw the trailer for F1, I thought this could be the next Ford versus Ferrari, a blend of adrenaline, emotion, and character drama that captures what makes racing human. And at least for the first half, it really felt that way. The roar of the engines, the pulse of the crowd, and the sound design that hits your chest, everything about F1 begins with an exciting rhythm. Brad Pitt's Sonny Hayes is introduced with that calm, confident smirk, a veteran racer trying to prove there's still something left in his tank, and Joseph Kosinski directs the early sequences with the same precision he brought to Top Gun Maverick. The 4K visuals and the Dolby Atmos soundtrack are top tier here. You will hear every gear change, every wind drag, and when those cars accelerate, you feel the G-force through the screen. It's immersive, stylish, and it is first hour deeply engaging. But as the film shifts from the racetrack to the relationships of it, that energy starts to fade. The second half of F1 becomes strangely numb. All the passion of the sports dissolves in the formalic subplots. There's a romance angle between Pitt's character and the technician, played by Quiet Warm by Carrie Condon. But it feels a bit mechanical, like something written in because every big budget movie needs a love story. Pitt tries to charm his way through it with that half Clooney grin, but it just doesn't fit here. You can almost see the performance working too hard to be effortless. It's not like his natural charisma we saw in Bullet Train, where Pitt leaned into chaos with humor. Here, he's trying to project that calm coolness of Tom Cruise type, the veteran who still got it, but instead, it comes off a bit self-conscious, even cringe in moments. The contrast becomes especially clear when you think about Ford versus Ferrari and Rush. In Ford vs. Ferrari, Christian Bale and Matt Damon had this chemistry that made you care about their friendship and their struggle against the system. Every conversation between them felt lived in, every argument meaningful. And in Rush, Ron Howard gave us two drivers so emotionally charged that their rivalry carried the entire story. The audience was hooked not just by the racers, but by the people in them. Now, F1 doesn't quite manage that. It gives you the spectacle, and yes, it's a spectacle, but it rarely gives you the heart behind it. The camaraderie feels rehearsed, the dialogue lacks the personal spark, and the emotional stakes never rise above the expected. I feel that in this movie, Brad Pitt's character Hayes has to use some kind of trickery to slow down the race so that his partner can win. Now, if that isn't cheating, then what is it? But compared to Ford versus Ferrari, where the man behind the race wants to win with complete honesty and has no need to slow it down, Hayes' actions feels a bit questionable here. Now, this could be because Hayes probably realized that his car wasn't the best compared to his competitors, and he had no choice but to resort to such tactics. However, this undermines the true spirit behind movies like this, which are supposed to celebrate camaraderie and true sportsmanship and passion for the race itself. Now, Javier Bardem, who plays the team principal Ruben Caravantes, is another missed opportunity. When I first heard he was cast, I imagined he's bringing that intensity we know from No Country for Old Men or even his layered leadership from Skyfall. But here he's badly used, more of a functional plot device than a fully realized character. His potential to add emotional or moral weight to the story just sits there, unexplored. Now, it's a pity because a strong dynamic between him and Pitt could have anchored the film into something deeper than just a comeback cliches. Instead, we get a few sharp exchanges early on, and then he sidelined as the plot moves into safer, more predictable territory. Visually, though F1 is stunning, Claudio Miranda's cinematography puts you right on the track, close enough to feel the friction and the danger. The way the camera moves through the grid, how it hugs the asphalt, how sunlight bleeds across the helmets is technical poetry. And Kosinski's background in aerial cinematography from Maverick pays off. Some of the drone sequences over Monaco and Silverstone circuits are jaw-dropping. You can't deny the craftsmanship. In Dolby Atmos, the engines rumble like thunder, and the sense of speed is breathtaking. This is where F1 shines the most, as an experience, not as a story. But when the movie slows down to build its emotional core, it starts to wobble. There's a long stretch in the second half that tries to balance redemption, romance, and mentorship all at once, but it never commits to one. Instead of exploring Sonny Hayes' inner conflict or his legacy as a mentor, the script gives us one-note reflections and sentimental exchanges that feel forced. It's that part of the film where you start to realize the first half promised more than the second could actually deliver. Even the much talked about the final fireworks sequence, which has now become something of a meme online, feels like the movie's unintentional metaphor: loud, overproduced, and oddly hollow. It looks incredible, but it says very little. Now, critics seems divided on this one, and honestly, I can see why. Many praise the film's technical brilliance, the realism of the races, and the use of practical cars instead of CGI, and the sound design that practically redefines racing cinema. But others called it a hollow experience, an empty spectacle that looks great but doesn't say much. Some even joke that the F1 feels like an Apple TV commercial stretched into a 2-hour movie, glossy, expensive, and emotionally sterile. It's a fair point. You can feel the perfectionism of Kosinski's production, but you rarely feel the pulse of the characters the way you find in Ford vs. Ferrari. Now, in terms of box office, F1 is undeniably a success. With a massive budget reportedly between $200 to $300 million, it's already grossed over $600 million worldwide, making it one of the highest grossing racing films ever. Now, that tells you something about how well it works as a visual experience. People went to see it for the spectacle, the speed, and Brad Pitt behind the wheel. But whether they left emotionally fulfilled, that's another story. Now, for me, F1 is a beautifully crafted machine with a weak engine underneath. It races fast, but it doesn't reach the final line with a heart. I would say the sound design, the visuals, the Dolby Atmos mix, all are phenomenal. But the human connection that made Rush and Ford vs. Ferrari timeless just isn't there. Brad Pitt delivers charm and grit, but not vulnerability. Carrie Condon tries to give depth to her scenes, but the writing gives her little to hold on to. And Javier Bardem, with all his screen presence, is simply left idling on the sidelines. So where does that leave F1 the movie? As a cinematic experience, it's powerful. As a story, it's predictable. As an entertainment, it's uneven, thrilling at first, exhausting by the end. But in the right sound system, it's undeniably immersive. You can say the film wins pole positions for technical excellence, but finishes mid-pack in emotional resonance. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Why? Because one extra star purely for craftsmanship, the Dolby Atmos track, and those breathtaking first lap sequences. In the end, F1 is like a car that looks flawless in design but loses torque when it matters the most. It wants to be Ford vs. Ferrari, it tries to echo Rush, but it ends up idling somewhere in between, beautiful, loud, and built for speed, yet strangely hollow once the engine fades. Now, this movie is a must-watch.